Hi class, welcome to Nutrition 210. This is the first lecture in this series. You guys are taking the online class, so I hope you enjoy. Every week I'll be doing my best to record lectures for you. So these are our lecture slides. This is the first series of them. This is your textbook. Your textbook will be very helpful to you succeeding in the class. In addition to the textbook, which is published by McGraw-Hill, you will need the Connect component of the class because you will be doing online activities through McGraw-Hill Connect, which is very, very helpful. So I know you don't have partners or neighbors in this online class, so you can just think to yourself, what is health? What is good nutrition, and are they different? Or are there some areas where they overlap? I personally think that there is a huge overlap and nutrition contributes a lot to health, but some people might disagree. So think about what those two things mean to you, and hopefully we'll explore those more as we go through this class. Why do we choose the foods that we do? Again, think about this. This lady is eating a lollipop. Why do you think she chose that? It's colorful, it tastes good, it's sweet. Maybe she has some childhood memories, fondness of eating that lollipop. Lots of potential reasons. Think of the last meal you ate. Why did you eat that? I just ate lunch. I had some edamame and whole wheat macaroni and cheese. I ate the macaroni and cheese because it tasted good and it was whole wheat, so I convinced myself it was healthy. And the edamame, I also liked the taste. Both were convenient. They weren't expensive. There's so many reasons that go into food choice, and they're different for everybody. These are just some of the reasons that can go into food choice: cost, availability, marketing, lifestyle, routines. Maybe you always eat cereal for breakfast. Customs, what did you grow up eating or cooking or making? Family and friends, who are you with? Is it a celebration? Maybe it's a birthday. Maybe it's a holiday. Texture, flavor, appearance, so many different things. Appetite, health concerns. Everything is important to why you choose the foods you do. And your kind of organization of these thoughts might vary from day to day. Some days you might choose something because it's available. Other days you might choose something because it's healthy. So what about nutrition? How many people choose foods based on nutrition? Well, I don't have an exact number for that, but reading nutrition labels is one good way we can find out at least who's interested in nutrition. And it may or may not surprise you, but women read more labels than men. And label reading is associated with a lower BMI, about 1.5 points, which we're going to get more into BMI later. But BMI is body mass index, which is an equation that looks at your height over your weight, your weight over your height, and it can be calculated in kilograms over meters squared of your height. BMI isn't a perfect measure, but higher BMIs are associated with chronic disease and increased mortality. What did you eat for your last meal and why? Did any of these things come into place? I'm guessing they probably did. So nutrition. Nutrition is the science that links foods to health and disease. It includes the processes by which the human organism ingests, digests, absorbs, transports, and excretes food substances. And we're going to get to all those things in our upcoming chapters. Nutrition is important to people too. It's more than just the science. And I will say it is an evolving science. That being said, recommendations are constantly changing. Science is constantly changing. Studies are finding new things. We used to think that fat was really, really bad. Then we thought carbs were really, really bad. And now maybe fat isn't so bad anymore. So what changed? Did the fat itself change, or is it the research that changed? And really, it's the research and our knowledge. Why study nutrition? One of the main reasons would be to be healthy and prevent chronic disease. I have this table of chronic diseases listed here, and the ones with the small little asterisks represent chronic diseases that are associated with nutrition, meaning they could be reduced by good nutrition perhaps prevented or definitely slowed down their progression. I'm actually really surprised diabetes only counts for 2.9%. But total, if you look at all these conditions and their relationship to nutrition, about 2/3 of the death in this world are related to nutrition related issues. So that's huge. Other reasons for studying nutrition, perhaps social reasons, religious reasons. You want to learn about metabolism. Maybe you want to learn about food production, marketing, packaging, preservatives, innovations in growth, for example, growth during pregnancy or infancy. Maybe you want to learn about nutrition during aging and what can slow down aging. I love nutrition because it's such a practical field and there's so many reasons to study it. Foods contain nutrients. There's a great video on nutrients on Polylearn. And nutrients, some of them are essential, some of them are not. If they're not essential, that means our body can make them ourselves. But many of them are essential. They help us make energy. They perform functions in our body that we wouldn't be able to do without them. And in the case that we're low on some of these essential nutrients, if we then are able to eat some of them, we can again go back to performing those functions. A good example might be iron. We need iron for many, many things, but one of them is making red blood cells. If we don't have iron, we can't carry oxygen in our red blood cells. However, if we're then given more iron, we're able to make those red blood cells again. Classes and sources of nutrients. There are 6 main nutrients, and we can categorize them into different things, energy producing and non-energy producing. And we're going to talk about energy, but energy is like calories. Carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, or sometimes called fats or even oils, all let us produce energy in calories. So that's kind of one group of nutrients. Those are called the macronutrients. Water, minerals, and vitamins we're not able to produce energy from, and so therefore they're considered non-energy producing nutrients and micronutrients. That doesn't mean they're less important. They're still very important. They just don't let us make calories. So here they all are: carbs, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. Carbohydrates. We're going to do a very, very, very brief overview of the macronutrients, and then we have entire chapters dedicated to them. But carbohydrates I usually refer to as carbs. They can come as simple sugars. They may be something like glucose or sucrose, which is table sugar. Glucose is our blood sugar. It can be in 1 or 2 units. Maybe you've heard of fructose, galactose. These are all things we're going to talk about. Or they can be more complex when multiple sugars are linked together, and this can form starch or fiber. We're able to digest starch, but we are not able to digest fiber. So therefore, it's an important part of our digestive system and helps move things along through our digestive tract. Carbohydrates can give us energy, 4 calories per gram, and they're composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Fats, on the other hand, provide 9 calories per gram. In the body, the major form of fats is called triglycerides, and this is how we both get fats from our diet and store them in our body. They're made up of fatty acids and glycerol. Typically, there's 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol component, and they may be saturated, which means they have full hydrogens, or unsaturated, which means they don't have all their hydrogen. We also have essential fatty acids that we absolutely need from our diet, and trans fatty acids, which are not so good for us. Protein. I'm sure you guys have heard of protein. Protein has very many important functions in our body. It gives us 4 calories per gram, but this is not our main source of energy. We would rather use carbs first and foremost, and then fats. You can get protein from plants or animal sources. The composition of protein is a little different than carbs and fats because proteins have nitrogen. N stands for nitrogen, and that's very important that we'll talk about more later on. Most of us get more than enough protein that we need. We eat about twice as much as we need, and unfortunately, when we eat so much, it turns into fat. Vitamins. Vitamins are one of the micronutrients. Some vitamins are essential, and they're categorized into fat and water-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins mostly come from fruits and vegetables. We excrete them in the urine. That's why they're considered water-soluble. And because we excrete them so easily, we actually need to replenish them more often. Fat-soluble vitamins are stored in the fat cells, and because of this, they can actually accumulate. This is usually good for storage. However, the fat-soluble vitamins are more likely to cause toxicity because of this accumulation. Minerals, think of the periodic table when I think of minerals. Minerals do not have carbon in them. They can't be destroyed by cooking. Sometimes they're referred to as ash, and they're very, very important. They're considered inorganic, and 16 of them are essential. There are the major minerals, such as calcium, chloride, phosphorus, potassium, and sodium, and then there are trace minerals. The major minerals we need a lot more of, and they make up things like our skeleton. They serve as important electrolytes between our cells. And the minor importance often serve as enzymes or cofactors. Water. I think you guys know we need water. Most of our body is actually composed of water. How many calories does water have? None. That's why it's such a great beverage. Where do we get water? So obviously we can drink water, but we get water or fluid from other things as well: juices, milk, soups, popsicles, jello. And our body actually produces some water as a byproduct of metabolism. Other nutrients in foods. Phytochemicals are healthy components found in plants. Phyto means plant. So an example would be fiber and pigments. You can think of anthocyanins or lycopene. These are things found in different plants, foods that we eat, such as tomatoes. Zoochemicals. Zoo comes from animals. So these are helpful chemicals found in animals, such as the omega-3 fatty acids that we find in salmon, which are also found in some plants. Wait, this isn't a math class. You're right, it's not math, but understanding math will really help you in this class because there's a lot of calculations. You have to be able to calculate where you get energy from food. And when we talk about energy in food, we call it a calorie. You note that calorie has a capital C, and it's also called kcal. So a capital C is the amount of heat generated by a food that would be able to heat up 1 liter of water. And this is a pretty big measure. So calories can be measured by something called a bomb calorimeter, and this is a machine where food is heated and burned, and then the temperature of water in a tight sealed container is measured. How many calories from each food? 4 from carbs, protein, 9 from fat, and 7 from alcohol. This is the picture of the bomb calorimeter, and there's a very great video that I suggest you watch. Calculating calories. These are some examples. Because most food components contain the 3 macronutrients, carbs, fat, and protein, you get different amounts of calories from each of these. And so you can calculate them like you see here. Here's another example, this grilled cheese sandwich. I'll let you figure it out, but the total percent calories from fat that you should get for your answer is 41.8. So if you don't get that, please email or contact me. The metric system. Most of this is FYI. In the US, we do not use the metric system, but almost every other scientist does. Some important ones you should know is centimeters to inches and pounds to kilograms. Energy uses. So why do we use all these calories? We have to build new compounds such as proteins, blood cells, immune factors. We have to move when we exercise and work out, when our lungs breathe, when our heart beats, everything. We have nerve transmission, ion balance, etc. Nutritional health status. So optimal nutrition. We want optimal nutrition. That's what we're trying to achieve. And optimal nutrition would be nutrition free of disease or death or injury. Undernutrition, you can have deficiencies, clinical and subclinical. A subclinical deficiency would be where you're low in a nutrient, but it hasn't caused any problems yet. A clinical nutrition deficiency would be where you're low in a nutrient and it's causing problems. For example, if you're low in vitamin D, it can cause something called rickets, which is actually where the bones are so soft that the legs can bow. overnutrition. Toxicities are something we worry about, not with all nutrients, but some of them. Aluminum, for example, has been linked to Alzheimer's disease when it builds up in the brain. Current state of nutrition and health, we are in a state of huge rates of obesity. I really recommend you watch this video. It's horrifying and fascinating at the same time. Getting healthy, every 10 years we make a set of goals for the next decade, and the current set of goals out is for 2020. It's called the Healthy People 2020 goals. You can read some of them in your textbook, but pretty much we're trying to make people live longer, disease-free, with a good quality of life. Scientific method, very, very important. This is how we learn what we learn about nutrition. The first step is an observation. The second, a hypothesis. The third is research. So, for example, I observe that more Americans are becoming obese. I might hypothesize that this is because they're eating more and working out less. Then I could conduct research to confirm that. I would collaborate with other researchers to see if they found the same results as me, and I would decide to accept or reject my hypothesis. Double-blind studies. This happens when both the researcher and the participant don't know what is happening. A control group is a group that does not get a treatment. For example, if you were doing a study on vitamin C, the control group would not get vitamin C. Instead, they might get something like a placebo. A placebo is something that doesn't have any biological activity, but it still looks like whatever the other group is getting. So if you gave one group vitamin C pills, you would give the other group a placebo pill that looked just like the vitamin C pill, but had no vitamin C in it. Case control studies are where they examine a group of people who have a disease and compare them to a group of people who don't and try to see what the differences were. Types of studies. Any types of studies can lead to hypothesis acceptance. The more types of studies there are, kind of the better, stronger evidence there can be. And so these are some of the studies you can read about. Evaluating nutrition advice. Using the scientific method is very important. We want to look at research articles and see how big the study was, where it was funded, what were the motives of the study, what were the people like that were studied, were they same, were they different, did they rule out any variables, etc. Nutrition assessment can be summarized in the A, B, C, Ds, and Es. Anthropometrics is going to be things like height and weight. Biochemical would be things such as laboratory results like hemoglobin or calcium levels. Clinical might be their examination in a clinic. Perhaps we're going to look at blood pressure or something like that. Dietary would be a dietary recall. What did you eat in the last week, the last month, the last 24 hours? And then environmental, what is the environment like? Genetics and nutrition is an upcoming topic. Gene therapy has been used where they have actually inserted genes to help treat disease. And so this is becoming very, very exciting. Getting nutrition advice in the US, registered dietitians, doctors, potentially nurses, registered dietitian technicians are some of the best sources for your nutrition advice. And that's the end of this lecture. Thank you.